Shalom and welcome to the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. Today we're beginning Jeremiah chapter 9, looking at verse 1. I remind you that in our English versions, this is verse 2, so there's a little bit of a difference there. In the previous verse, we saw Jeremiah lamenting over his people, wishing he could weep for them day and night because of what they brought upon themselves, the terrible destruction. And his words are going to continue here in this verse, but he's going to say something quite different. So let's read the text in Hebrew as we get started. Mi yitneni v'midbar malon orchim ve'ezvah et ami ve'eleka me'itam ki kulam mena'afim atzeret bogedim. So we saw this, actually almost the same thing back in the previous verse of the last verse of chapter 8. Who will give, but this time we have the pronoun suffix on it, actually. It would include the vowel there. So who will give me? So we have a pronoun suffix as a first common singular suffix, and this is just an imperfect, IMPF, there we go, and it's a 3MS cal from our verb natan, so we're used to seeing that. Natan, like that. And this is an expression that expresses what we would call, in other languages, we would call the optative, a deep desire or a wish. So who would give? Would that, we saw in the previous verse, we translated it that way. In this case, it's almost a little more literal. Who would give me in the wilderness? So there's our article here, Midbar's wilderness. So in the wilderness, Malon, and this is a word which means, from the root milin, which means to spend the night somewhere. So malon is a place where you can spend the night, a lodging place just for the night. And in here it's in construct with orchim. Well, this is a participle. See this o vowel here, cholam. This is a regular good old participle. It's a masculine plural, obviously, with the im ending on it. And it's a cal from our verb arach. You may know the word orak, which is a noun often used, which means path, and this is from that same idea. So this is, the verb means to wander or to journey. So this would be a lodging place of journeyers, a lodging place of travelers. So who would give me a place where I could spend the night out in the desert someplace that travelers go through? And now this is just a conjunctive verb, but it's going to have the nuance, especially as you can see here with this cohortative, because what we have here is going to be an aleph prefix with an a ending at the end. So this is going to be a cohortative. It's going to be a first common singular, a cal, from a verb azav, which means to abandon. So the vav here is not a conversive or a consecutive, but it has more the idea of so that, with the result that, so that I might abandon. This is, again, continuing this wishful idea. This is what I want to do now, so that I might abandon my people. There's a direct object marker with, again, im, with the e ending on it, first common singular suffix, so that I might abandon my people. And same thing over here, this vav with the same idea of, and so that I might walk. Now here we have, it's a cohortative, it's a first singular, it's a cal. This time it's from the verb halak. That's just a hey, not a hate. And halak, as you know, oftentimes works like a one yod verb, which is why the hey disappears, and you end up with this sere underneath. That kind of shows that there was something else going on here. And so that I might abandon my people, and so that I might walk, or I might go, would be a better translation in this case, from with them. You see the three parts here? You have the min right here. You usually would have the nun assimilated into a dagesh, but we lengthen the vowel instead. And then there's our preposition et, but in the sense of with. And then there's our pronoun suffix. In this case, it's a third masculine plural. So that I might go from with them. So I might go away from them. Well, and why is this? Because all of them, so this is just kol, our regular little noun that we're used to seeing here, with a 3MP suffix, just like over here, because all of them, mena'afim, Now here we have a participle. We get this mean at the front. That's with the schwa underneath it. With the mem and the schwa, that's a pretty good indication we may have a PL participle. And usually you would have a patak and a dagish as good signs of a PL. Well, we don't have the dagish because, again, we have this guttural in a minute, so the patak is lengthened into a full comet. So that's pretty typical. And obviously with the eem ending on it, we had some masculine plural. So it's a masculine plural participle, and it's a PL from the verb na'af. And this is the verb a verb you find in the Ten Commandments, for instance, thou shalt not commit adultery. And this is the word to commit adultery. And the cal and the PL don't have a lot of distinction between the two, so this is being used as a substantive here. So all of them are adulterers, those who commit adultery. And then et seret, this is a noun, just like it's written. It can be found in this form just as it is here, but in this case with the singular form, it's in construct with the following word. And et seret means an assembly or a gathering, so let's call it an assembly or a group of something. Bogadim, another participle. This time it's another masculine plural participle, and it's a cal again from the verb bagad, and bagad means to deal treacherously. So this is an assembly of those who deal treacherously, an assembly of traitors. This is how Jeremiah sees the people. He's not weeping for them this time. Now he's disgusted with them and wants to go away from them, and as we'll see in the translations here. So not too complicated in its analysis. Let's go ahead and hide our work here, and we will look at a couple of translations. First of all, in the ESV, there's not going to be a lot of variation in the translations. Most of them are going to go pretty straightforward. So, oh, that I had. So, who will give to me? So, with this sort of optative, volitional wish here. Oh, that I had in the desert a traveler's lodging place, a lodging place of those who wander. That, as you can see this idea of the purpose here, that I might leave my people, abandon my people, and go away from them, for they are all adulterers, a company of treacherous men, those who deal treacherously. As I said, not a lot of variation. The Revised English Bible, which is a revision of the New English Bible from Britain, would that I had in the wilderness a wayside shelter, place it for travelers again, that I might leave my people and go away, they are all adulterers, a faithless mob. And you're going to see some very, very small variations in our translations. Again, it's quite a change, isn't it, in Jeremiah's attitude? But it's very understandable. On the one hand, he loves his people and he grieves deeply, deeply over their sin. And then, on the other hand, he's so frustrated and disgusted with them that he wishes he could just leave them and go away. Sometimes those of us who are in ministry have to deal with these contradictory feelings like that. We love God's people, or the people we're trying to reach, and yet it can be so frustrated working. God understands that, Jeremiah understands that, and he's going to continue addressing that question here and that issue. We'll check back with us soon as we begin moving through chapter 9 in the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. Shalom.